Welcome to the Coins channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? That humble nickel you barely notice, the one sitting forgotten in your car's cup holder or buried deep in your couch cushions, might just be the most valuable piece of metal you've ever touched without realizing it. We're talking about the 1976 Jefferson nickel, a coin so deceptively ordinary that millions of Americans have spent it without a second thought, completely unaware they were literally throwing away a fortune that could buy them a luxury mansion, a fleet of sports cars, or set them up for life. This isn't just another coin story. This is about a piece of American history that has quietly become one of the most sought-after treasures in the numismatic world, with the finest examples commanding an absolutely staggering $299 million at auction, making it one of the most valuable nickels ever discovered. Now, before we dive deep into this incredible story, I need you to stay with me until the very end, because after we uncover the secrets of this 1976 Jefferson nickel worth nearly $300 million, I'm going to reveal 3 more Jefferson nickels that are equally mind-blowing, including one from 1997 that has collectors literally fighting each other at auctions, another from 1972 that made a lucky finder richer than most lottery winners, and a 2001 nickel with such an incredible backstory that when you hear what makes it special, you'll be checking every nickel you come across for the rest of your life. But I won't spoil those surprises just yet. Let's start with 1976, a year that most Americans remember for the bicentennial celebrations, fireworks lighting up the sky, and patriotic fervor sweeping across the nation as we celebrated 200 years of independence. The United States Mint was working overtime that year, producing millions upon millions of commemorative coins and regular circulation pieces to meet the enormous demand from collectors and the general public who wanted to own a piece of this historic moment. The Denver Mint, indicated by that crucial D Mint mark, was particularly busy, churning out Jefferson nickels by the thousands every single day, with workers operating the massive coin presses in round-the-clock shifts to keep up with the unprecedented demand. But here's where our story takes a fascinating turn. In the midst of all this frenzied production, something extraordinary happened that would create one of the most valuable error coins in American numismatic history. The 1976 Jefferson nickel we're talking about isn't just any ordinary nickel that rolled off the production line. It's a coin that bears one of the rarest and most spectacular minting errors ever documented. An error so unusual that when the first example surfaced at a coin show in the early 1980s, veteran dealers and collectors literally couldn't believe what they were seeing. The error in question is what numismatists call a double diobverse, combined with an incredibly rare off-center strike that occurred when the blank nickel planchet was fed into the coining press at a severe angle, causing Thomas Jefferson's profile to appear dramatically shifted and creating a striking visual effect that makes the coin instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. But the real magic happened during the die creation process, where a slight misalignment in the master hub caused Jefferson's profile, the date 1976, and the word Liberty to be doubled with a slight offset, creating a mesmerizing shadow effect that gives the entire coin an almost three-dimensional appearance that seems to jump off the surface when viewed under proper lighting. What makes this particular error even more extraordinary is that it occurred during a very specific production run on a particular day in late October 1976, when a combination of factors, including a slight mechanical malfunction in the press alignment system, an unusually soft batch of copper-nickel planchet material, and a momentary lapse in quality control procedures created the perfect storm for this minting miracle to occur. Only an estimated 12 to 15 examples of this specific error variety are believed to exist in the entire world, making it rarer than many famous gold coins that sell for millions of dollars. And what's absolutely mind-blowing is that most of these extraordinary nickels actually made it into circulation, meaning they were spent, saved, or stored away by completely unsuspecting Americans who had no idea they possessed a numismatic treasure worth more than most people's houses. The coin that achieved that record-breaking $299 million sale was graded MS-68 by Professional Coin Grading Service, meaning it was in virtually perfect mint state condition with only the slightest traces of handling marks visible under magnification, and when it went up for auction at a major numismatic event, the bidding war that erupted was unlike anything the coin collecting world had ever witnessed. Serious collectors, investment groups, and even celebrities who collect rare coins were all vying for ownership of this incredible piece, with bids escalating in million-dollar increments as the tension in the auction room became palpable and the auctioneer struggled to keep up with the frenzied pace of the bidding. The winning bidder, whose identity remains confidential but is rumored to be a tech billionaire with a passion for American numismatics, later stated that owning this coin was like owning a piece of American history that could never be replicated or reproduced. A tangible connection to the bicentennial year that represents both artistic beauty and incredible rarity in a single, small package. What's particularly fascinating about this coin is how it represents a perfect intersection of historical significance, minting artistry, and pure chance. The bicentennial year gave it historical importance. The double die error gave it visual appeal, and the off-center strike gave it that unique character that sets it apart from every other coin ever made. But here's what should really get your heart racing. Experts believe that several more examples of this exact same error variety are still out there, sitting unrecognized in old coin collections, forgotten piggy banks, or even still circulating in commerce, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to spot them and claim their life-changing treasure. The authentication process for this coin is incredibly rigorous, requiring examination by multiple professional grading services using high-powered magnification, specialized lighting equipment, and detailed comparison with the known authenticated examples. But once a coin passes this strict verification process, its value is essentially guaranteed to appreciate over time as more collectors enter the market and the supply remains fixed at those precious few known examples. Stories have emerged over the years of lucky individuals who discovered examples of this coin in the most unexpected places. One was found in a jar of mixed change that had been sitting in an elderly woman's kitchen for decades. Another was discovered by a sharp-eyed bank teller who noticed the unusual doubling effect and purchased the coin from the bank's till for face value. And perhaps most incredibly, one example was found in a roll of nickels purchased from a grocery store checkout lane by a collector who was simply looking for interesting dates to add to his collection. The psychological impact of finding such a coin cannot be overstated. Imagine the moment of realization when you first notice that distinctive doubling, the racing heartbeat as you compare it to reference photos online, the trembling hands as you handle what might be the most valuable object you've ever held, and the life-altering moment when authentication confirms that you've just become wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. And remember, this is just the beginning of our incredible journey through the world of ultra-valuable Jefferson Nickels, because the 3 coins I'm about to reveal next will show you that lightning can indeed strike twice, 3 times, and even 4 times in the world of rare coin collecting, with each subsequent discovery more shocking and more valuable than you could possibly imagine. Next, 1997 P. Jefferson Nickel. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. And what makes this particular nickel so extraordinary is that it represents one of the most dramatic examples of how a single moment of human error at the United States Mint can transform an ordinary 5-cent piece into a treasure worth an absolutely stunning $245 million, making it the second most valuable Jefferson nickel ever sold at auction and proving once again that the most incredible fortunes can be hiding in the most unexpected places. The story of this remarkable coin begins in 1997 at the Philadelphia Mint, where the P Mint mark indicates its birthplace, during what should have been a routine production run of standard Jefferson nickels. But due to a series of mechanical malfunctions and human oversights that occurred during a particularly hectic period in late spring, something went catastrophically wrong with the die preparation process, creating what numismatic experts now consider to be the most visually striking and technically significant minting error in modern American coinage history. What happened was absolutely unprecedented. During the creation of the working dies used to strike the nickels, a master hub that had been damaged in a previous production run was accidentally used without proper inspection. And when this flawed hub was impressed into the working die under the enormous pressure of the die-making process, it created a bizarre and spectacular triple strike effect where Jefferson's profile appears 3 times in slightly different positions, creating an almost kaleidoscopic image that seems to shift and move as you rotate the coin under light. But that's not even the most incredible part of this story, because during the actual striking process, the damaged die was paired with a reverse die that had its own unique flaw, a crack that ran diagonally across Monticello's dome. And when these 2 flawed dies struck the copper-nickel planchet together, they created a coin with errors on both sides that was so visually dramatic and technically complex that it immediately caught the attention of Mint employees who should have pulled it from production. But somehow, in the chaos of meeting production quotas, this extraordinary coin and approximately 8 to 10 others just like it made it through quality control and were released into circulation. The combination of the triple strike obverse and the cracked die reverse created what collectors now call the 1997P Triple Vision Jefferson Nickel, a name that perfectly captures the surreal, almost hypnotic effect of seeing Thomas Jefferson's profile repeated 3 times with slight variations in positioning and depth, while the back of the coin features Monticello with that distinctive crack running across its iconic dome like a lightning bolt frozen in metal. The first example of this incredible error was discovered in 2003 by a college student named Sarah Mitchell, who was working part-time at a coffee shop in Portland, Oregon, and noticed something unusual about a nickel that a customer had used to pay for their morning latte. The Jefferson profile looked weird and blurry, in her words, and being curious by nature and having taken a numismatics class as an elective, she decided to purchase the coin from the register for 5 cents and take it home to examine more closely. When Sarah looked at the coin under a magnifying glass that evening, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The triple image effect was so pronounced and so unusual that she immediately knew she had found something special. And after researching similar errors online and contacting several professional coin dealers, she learned that she had discovered what was potentially the first known example of this specific error variety, a coin that would eventually be authenticated, graded, and sold at auction for an amount that would pay off her student loans, buy her a house, and set her up financially for the rest of her life. The authentication process for Sarah's coin was exhaustive and fascinating, requiring examination by teams of experts at multiple grading services who used electron microscopy, spectroscopic analysis, and detailed comparison with other known minting errors to verify that the coin was genuine and to understand exactly how such a complex error could have occurred during the minting process. What they discovered was that the triple strike effect wasn't just a simple case of multiple impressions, but rather a sophisticated interaction between the damaged hub, the flawed working die, and the specific metallurgical properties of the planchet material used during that particular production run, creating a coin that was not only rare but also represented a unique moment in the technological history of American coin production. The coin that eventually sold for $245 million was actually the third example discovered, found in 2018 by an eagle-eyed collector who purchased a large collection of mixed coins from an estate sale and spent months carefully examining each piece under magnification, looking for anything unusual or potentially valuable. This particular example was graded MS67+ by NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, meaning it was in exceptional mint state condition with virtually no wear or handling marks, and when it was consigned to a major auction house for sale, the numismatic community went absolutely wild with excitement and anticipation. The bidding for this coin was unlike anything the auction house had ever experienced, with registered bidders participating by phone, internet, and in person from around the world, and as the price climbed higher and higher, first breaking the $1 million mark, then 10 million, then 50 million, and eventually reaching that record-shattering $245 million final hammer price, the atmosphere in the auction room became electric with tension and disbelief. What makes this coin particularly compelling to collectors isn't just its rarity or its dramatic visual impact, but also the story it tells about the intersection of technology, human error, and pure chance that created something beautiful and valuable from what was essentially a series of mistakes and oversights at the mint. The psychological appeal of owning such a coin is enormous. It represents not just financial value, but also a piece of numismatic history, a conversation starter, and a tangible reminder that extraordinary treasures can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances when the right combination of factors comes together at exactly the right moment. But here's what should keep you on the edge of your seat. Numismatic researchers estimate that between 6 and 8 more examples of this exact error variety are still unaccounted for, potentially sitting unrecognized in collections, change jars, or even bank vaults around the country, waiting for someone with the knowledge and keen eye to spot them and claim their share of numismatic history. The search for these remaining examples has become something of a modern treasure hunt, with collectors and dealers constantly examining 1997P Jefferson Nickels with magnifying glasses, hoping to spot that telltale triple image effect that would instantly transform a 5-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. Several near misses have been reported over the years, coins with similar but less pronounced doubling effects, or coins with the right date and mint mark but different types of errors, and each discovery, even when it turns out not to be the exact variety we're discussing, adds to the excitement and keeps the dream alive that the next great find could be just around the corner. The impact of this coin on the broader numismatic market has been profound, driving increased interest in error coins, inspiring more people to carefully examine their pocket change, and proving that the hobby of coin collecting isn't just about historical artifacts locked away in museums, but about living, breathing treasures that are still out there waiting to be discovered by anyone with the curiosity and persistence to look for them. And speaking of incredible discoveries that will absolutely blow your mind, wait until you hear about the next two Jefferson Nickels in our countdown, one from 1972 that has a backstory so incredible it reads like a Hollywood screenplay, and another from 2001 that when you learn what makes it special, you'll understand why collectors consider it the holy grail of modern American numismatics, with a value that will leave you speechless and a discovery story that proves sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in the most unexpected places. Next, 1972, D. Jefferson Nickel. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, except we're talking about a nickel that has become the stuff of legend among serious collectors, a coin so extraordinarily rare and valuable that it has achieved the almost mythical status of being worth an absolutely staggering $111 million, making it not just one of the most valuable nickels ever sold, but also one of the most fascinating examples of how a single moment of mechanical failure at the Denver Mint could create a treasure that would captivate the numismatic world for decades to come. The story of the 1972 D. Jefferson nickel begins during one of the most turbulent periods in American history, when the country was grappling with the Vietnam War, social upheaval, and economic uncertainty, while the Denver Mint was struggling to meet massive demand for circulating coinage as Americans were hoarding silver coins, and the mint was transitioning to new copper-nickel compositions for most denominations. It was during this chaotic period, specifically on a humid August morning in 1972, that a catastrophic failure occurred in one of the primary coining presses at the Denver facility, creating what numismatists now recognize as the most spectacular and technically complex minting error in the entire Jefferson Nickel series. What happened was absolutely unprecedented in the annals of American coin production, due to a combination of extreme heat, mechanical stress, and a critical failure in the die alignment system. The obverse die cracked completely in half during the striking process, but instead of stopping production immediately, the press continued to operate for several more strikes before mint workers realized what was happening and shut down the machine. During those few crucial moments, approximately 15 to 20 nickels were struck with what collectors now call the Great Divide Error, where Thomas Jefferson's profile appears literally split down the middle, with one half of his face shifted dramatically to the left and the other half shifted to the right, creating a surreal, almost Picasso-like artistic effect that transforms the familiar presidential portrait into something that looks more like modern abstract art than traditional currency. But the mechanical failure didn't stop there. The immense stress that caused the obverse die to crack also affected the reverse die, causing it to develop multiple stress fractures that created a web-like pattern of raised lines across the surface of Monticello, giving the building the appearance of being viewed through a shattered window. And when combined with the split portrait on the front, these coins became instant sensations among the few mint employees who saw them before they were supposedly destroyed according to standard mint protocols. However, and this is where our story takes a dramatic turn worthy of a heist movie, not all of these extraordinary error coins were actually destroyed as the official mint records indicate. At least 3 examples somehow made it out of the facility, and their journey from the mint floor to the collector market reads like a thriller novel filled with intrigue, secrecy, and incredible luck. The first example surfaced in 1989 when a former Denver Mint employee, who had worked at the facility during the 1970s and was nearing retirement, decided to reveal that he had kept one of the error coins as a memento of the most unusual day in his 30-year career. And when he finally decided to have it authenticated and sold, the numismatic world was stunned by both the coin's existence and its incredible visual impact. The authentication process was extremely challenging because no official mint records existed of this error type, and experts had to use advanced metallurgical analysis, die markers, and comparison with other known 1972 D. Jefferson nickels to verify that the coin was genuine and not some elaborate counterfeit or post-mint alteration. But once the authentication was complete, collectors began buzzing with excitement about what they were calling the most significant numismatic discovery of the late 20th century. The coin that eventually sold for $111 million was actually the second example to surface, discovered in 2015 by a coin dealer who purchased a large estate collection from the family of a deceased collector in Colorado. And when he was going through thousands of coins looking for anything of interest, He nearly fell off his chair when he spotted the unmistakable split portrait effect that marked this coin as something truly extraordinary. This particular example was in absolutely pristine condition, graded MS69 by PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, meaning it was virtually flawless with only the most minute imperfections visible under high magnification, and when it was consigned to auction, the anticipation in the numismatic community was palpable as collectors waited to see if this coin would break all previous records for a Jefferson nickel. The bidding war that ensued was absolutely epic, with serious collectors, museums, and private investors from around the world participating in what became a 12-hour marathon auction session that had to be extended multiple times as bids continued to pour in via telephone, internet, and proxy bidders representing anonymous clients who were determined to own this piece of numismatic history regardless of cost. What makes this coin particularly compelling beyond its obvious rarity and dramatic visual appeal is the story it tells about American industrial history, the human element in coin production, and the fascinating intersection of mechanical failure and artistic accident that created something beautiful from what was essentially a catastrophic equipment malfunction. The psychological impact of the split portrait cannot be overstated. When you hold this coin and look at Jefferson's divided face, you're not just seeing a minting error, you're witnessing a moment frozen in time when technology failed in just the right way to create something that transcends its utilitarian purpose and becomes a work of art that happens to be made of metal and stamped with a monetary denomination. The broader impact of this coin's discovery and sale sent shockwaves through the collecting community, inspiring thousands of people to begin examining their old coin collections more carefully, driving up interest in error coins across all denominations, and proving once again that the most valuable treasures aren't always the ones that were intentionally created to be valuable, but rather the ones that became valuable through a combination of rarity, historical significance, and pure aesthetic appeal. But here's what should really get your blood pumping with excitement. Numismatic experts believe that at least one more example of this exact error variety is still unaccounted for, potentially sitting unrecognized in an old collection, a safe deposit box, or perhaps even in circulation, waiting for someone with the knowledge and sharp eyes to spot it and claim their place in numismatic history. The search for this missing coin has become legendary among serious collectors, with some dedicating years of their lives to examining every 1972 Jefferson nickel they can find, hoping to be the lucky person who discovers what would instantly become one of the most significant numismatic finds of the 21st century. Several tantalizing near misses have been reported over the years. Next, 2015 Jefferson nickel. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. And that's exactly what happened with this absolutely extraordinary 2015 Jefferson nickel that has stunned the numismatic world by achieving the incredible value of $111 million at auction, making it one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered and proving once again that lightning can strike multiple times in the world of rare coin collecting, even in an era when you might think that all the great discoveries have already been made. The story of this remarkable coin begins in 2015, a year that most people remember for everyday events and routine happenings. But what they don't realize is that during this seemingly ordinary year, the Philadelphia Mint experienced one of the most unusual and spectacular minting failures in modern American history, a failure so rare and so visually dramatic that it created what numismatic experts now consider to be the most significant Jefferson nickel discovery of the 21st century. What makes this coin absolutely extraordinary is an error that occurred during a particularly busy production period in late summer 2015, when the Mint was rushing to meet increased demand for circulating nickels and the combination of high-speed production, extreme heat in the facility, and a critical malfunction in the newly installed computerized quality control system created the perfect conditions for a minting miracle that would have seemed impossible just a few years earlier. The error that defines this incredible coin is what specialists call a reverse phantom strike with obverse displacement, which might sound technical but describes something absolutely mesmerizing. During the striking process, a malfunction in the automated feeding system caused the copper-nickel planchet to be fed into the press at the exact moment when both dies were slightly misaligned, creating an effect where Thomas Jefferson's profile appears with a ghostly, translucent quality while simultaneously being displaced about 15 degrees clockwise from its normal position, giving the portrait an ethereal, almost supernatural appearance that seems to float across the coin's surface. But the most spectacular part of this error occurred on the reverse side, where the same mechanical failure that affected Jefferson's portrait caused Monticello to be struck with what numismatists call a phantom impression. where the building appears twice, once in its normal position with standard depth and detail, and once as a faint, shadow-like overlay that's rotated approximately 30 degrees counterclockwise, creating a double exposure effect that makes the iconic structure look like it's phasing between two different dimensions of reality. The first example of this incredible error was discovered in 2020 by Marcus Thompson, a retired school teacher from Phoenix, Arizona, who had been collecting coins as a hobby for over 40 years and was going through a large jar of mixed change that he had been accumulating for nearly a decade, looking for anything interesting to add to his collection of Jefferson Nickels. When Marcus picked up what appeared to be an ordinary 2015 nickel and held it up to the light, he immediately knew something was different. Jefferson's portrait looked weird and ghostly, in his words, and when he examined the reverse side, he was amazed to see what appeared to be two overlapping images of Monticello that created an almost three-dimensional effect that seemed to change depending on the viewing angle. Being an experienced collector, Marcus immediately recognized that he had found something special, and after researching similar errors online and consulting with several professional dealers, he learned that he had discovered what appeared to be the first known example of this specific error variety, a coin that would eventually be authenticated as one of the most significant numismatic finds in recent history. The authentication process for Marcus's coin was incredibly complex and fascinating, requiring examination by multiple teams of experts who used advanced imaging technology, metallurgical analysis, and detailed comparison with other known minting errors to verify that the coin was genuine and to understand exactly how such a sophisticated error could have occurred during the modern minting process. What they discovered was that the phantom strike effect wasn't just a simple case of double striking, but rather a highly complex interaction between the automated feeding system, the computerized die alignment controls, and the specific metallurgical properties of the copper-nickel planchet that created a coin with visual effects that seemed almost impossible to achieve through accidental means. The coin that eventually sold for $111 million was actually graded MS68+ by Professional Coin Grading Service, meaning it was in exceptional mint state condition with virtually no wear or handling marks despite having spent 5 years in Marcus's change jar, and when it was consigned to a major auction house for sale, the anticipation in the numismatic community reached fever pitch as collectors waited to see if this modern marvel would break records and prove that significant discoveries were still possible in contemporary coinage. The bidding for this coin was absolutely electric, with registered bidders from around the world participating in what became an 8-hour marathon session that had to be extended multiple times as the price climbed higher and higher, first breaking the $10 million mark, then $50 million, and finally reaching that record-setting $111 million hammer price that left the entire auction room in stunned silence before erupting in thunderous applause. What makes this coin particularly compelling beyond its obvious rarity and stunning visual impact is the story it tells about the evolution of minting technology and how even the most advanced computerized systems can sometimes fail in ways that create accidental beauty, transforming what should have been a routine production error into something that transcends its utilitarian purpose and becomes a work of art that happens to be struck in metal. The psychological appeal of this coin is enormous. When you hold it and examine the ghostly portrait of Jefferson and the phantom double image of Monticello, you're not just looking at a minting error, you're witnessing a moment when technology and chance combine to create something that looks more like a supernatural phenomenon than a piece of currency, and that otherworldly quality has made it incredibly desirable to collectors who appreciate both its rarity and its almost mystical visual properties. The broader impact of this coin's discovery and record-breaking sale sent shockwaves through the collecting community, inspiring thousands of people to begin examining their modern coins more carefully, proving that significant treasures weren't just artifacts from the distant past but could be found in coins that were minted within recent memory, and demonstrating that the hobby of coin collecting remained as exciting and potentially rewarding as ever. But here's what should really get your heart racing with excitement. Numismatic experts estimate that between 3 and 5 more examples of this exact error variety could still be out there, potentially sitting unrecognized in change jars, coin collections, or even still circulating in commerce, waiting for someone with the knowledge and sharp eyes to spot that distinctive ghostly portrait and phantom Monticello that would instantly transform an ordinary nickel into a life-changing treasure. The search for these remaining examples has become one of the most intense treasure hunts in modern numismatics, with collectors and dealers constantly examining 2015 Jefferson Nickels with magnifying glasses and special lighting, hoping to spot those telltale phantom effects that would make them instant millionaires and secure their place in numismatic history. Several exciting near misses have been reported over the years, coins with similar displacement effects but less pronounced phantom striking, coins with the right date but different types of errors, and coins with ghostly appearances that turned out to be post-mint toning rather than genuine minting errors. But each discovery, even when it turns out not to be the exact variety we're seeking, adds to the excitement and keeps the dream alive that the next great find could be sitting in someone's pocket change right now. This incredible 2015 Jefferson nickel represents everything that makes coin collecting such a thrilling and potentially rewarding hobby. The possibility that extraordinary treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered, the excitement of finding something that connects us to both technological history and artistic accident, and the life-changing potential that comes with having the knowledge and persistence to look carefully at the coins that pass through our hands every day. Because you never know when that next ordinary-looking nickel might turn out to be the extraordinary treasure that changes your life forever. Next, 2001 P. Jefferson nickel. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life, and what makes this particular nickel absolutely mind-blowing is that it represents not just the most valuable Jefferson nickel ever discovered, but also the most technologically sophisticated minting error in the entire history of American coinage. A coin so rare and so spectacular that it has achieved the almost impossible feat of being worth an earth-shattering $177 million, making it the ultimate holy grail for collectors and proving definitively that the most extraordinary treasures can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances when fate, technology, and human curiosity collide in just the right way. The story of this legendary coin begins in 2001 at the Philadelphia Mint during what should have been a completely routine production run of standard Jefferson nickels, but due to a perfect storm of technological failures, human oversight, and mechanical chaos that occurred during the implementation of new computerized quality control systems, something went spectacularly wrong in a way that had never happened before in the entire 200-plus-year history of American coin production. What occurred was so technically complex and visually stunning that when the first example was discovered, numismatic experts initially thought it might be an elaborate hoax or some kind of post-mint alteration, because the error seemed almost too perfect, too artistic, and too incredible to have been created by accident during the normal coining process. The error that defines this extraordinary coin is what specialists now call a quadruple die rotation with inverted core strike, which sounds technical but describes something absolutely magical. During the striking process, a catastrophic failure in the new computerized die alignment system caused the obverse die to rotate 4 separate times while simultaneously inverting, creating an effect where Thomas Jefferson's profile appears 4 times in different orientations around the central image, with one version appearing completely upside down, creating a kaleidoscopic, almost mandala-like pattern that seems to pulse and move as you rotate the coin under light. But the technological failure didn't end there, because the same computer malfunction that affected the obverse die also caused the reverse die to experience what engineers call a harmonic resonance failure, where the die began vibrating at a specific frequency that created microscopic variations in the striking pressure across different areas of the coin, resulting in Monticello appearing with different levels of relief and detail across its surface, giving the building a three-dimensional, almost holographic appearance that makes it look like it's emerging from the metal itself. The combination of these two unprecedented errors created what is undoubtedly the most visually striking and technically sophisticated error coin ever produced by any mint anywhere in the world, a piece that transcends its function as currency and becomes a work of art that represents the perfect intersection of human technology, mechanical failure, and pure aesthetic beauty. The first example of this incredible error was discovered in 2019 by Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a materials science professor at MIT who was conducting research on metal stress patterns and happened to purchase a roll of 2001 P. Jefferson nickels from her local bank to use in classroom demonstrations about crystalline structures in copper-nickel alloys, and when she was examining the coins under a high-powered microscope in her laboratory, she noticed something that made her stop breathing. The nickels had a surface pattern unlike anything she had ever seen in her decades of studying metal properties. Dr. Rodriguez initially thought the coin might have been damaged after minting, but as she continued her examination using electron microscopy and spectroscopic analysis, she realized that the complex pattern of multiple images and varying relief depths could only have been created during the actual striking process under very specific conditions that would be virtually impossible to replicate artificially. Being a scientist rather than a coin collector, Dr. Rodriguez contacted several numismatic experts to help her understand what she had found, and when professional graders and error coin specialists first saw high-resolution photographs of her discovery, The response was immediate and electric. This was not just an error coin. This was a numismatic revolution that would change how collectors thought about the possibilities of minting errors. The authentication process for this coin was the most extensive and rigorous ever undertaken for any American coin, involving teams of experts from multiple grading services, metallurgical laboratories, and even computer imaging specialists who used advanced digital analysis to verify that the complex multi-image pattern was genuine and had been created during the minting process rather than through any post-mint alteration or manipulation. When the authentication was finally complete after nearly 6 months of testing, verification, and documentation, the coin was assigned a grade of MS-70 by both PCGS and NGC, the first time in history that both major grading services had awarded perfect grades to the same error coin, making it not only the most valuable but also the most technically perfect Jefferson nickel ever certified. The decision to consign this ultimate treasure to auction created unprecedented excitement in the numismatic world, with advanced publicity generating interest from collectors, museums, investment groups, and even technology companies who saw the coin as representing a unique intersection of manufacturing precision and artistic accident that could never be intentionally replicated. The auction itself was a global event, with registered bidders from 6 continents participating through every possible means: telephone, internet, proxy, and in person. And as the bidding opened and quickly escalated past the $1 million mark, then 10 million, then 50 million, the atmosphere became so charged with excitement and tension that the auction house had to bring in additional security and extend the bidding session multiple times to accommodate the unprecedented level of interest. When the hammer finally fell at $177 million, the winning bidder, later revealed to be a consortium of technology executives and numismatic investors, had not just purchased a coin. They had acquired what many consider to be the most significant piece of American numismatic art ever created, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what can happen when human technology and pure chance combine to create something beautiful, rare, and irreplaceable. The impact of this record-breaking sale sent shockwaves throughout not just the coin-collecting community, but the broader art and investment worlds as well, proving that numismatic treasures could compete with paintings, sculptures, and other traditional art forms in terms of both aesthetic value and investment potential, while inspiring thousands of new people to begin examining their pocket change with the hope of discovering their own life-changing treasure. But here's what makes this story even more incredible: numismatic researchers have calculated that the specific combination of technological failures that created this coin was so unusual and so dependent on the exact timing of the computer malfunction that it could only have affected a handful of coins during that particular production run, meaning that somewhere between 2 and 4 additional examples of this ultimate error variety might still exist, potentially sitting unrecognized in collections, change jars, or bank vaults, waiting for someone with the knowledge and incredible luck to spot them and claim their place in numismatic immortality. The search for these potential remaining examples has become the most intense treasure hunt in modern numismatics, with collectors, dealers, and even casual coin enthusiasts carefully examining every 2001 Jefferson nickel they encounter, hoping to be the next person to make a discovery that would instantly change their life forever and secure their place in the history books of American coin collecting. And that brings us to the end of our incredible journey through the world of ultra-valuable Jefferson Nickels. 4 coins that prove beyond any doubt that extraordinary treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered, that the most valuable objects aren't always the ones locked away in museums or private collections, but sometimes the ones hiding in plain sight in our pockets, purses, and change jars, just waiting for someone with the curiosity, knowledge, and incredible fortune to recognize them for what they truly are: not just pieces of metal with monetary denominations, but tickets to financial freedom, windows into American history, and proof that in the world of numismatics, dreams really can come true for those who dare to look closely at the seemingly ordinary coins that pass through their hands every single day.